Hey guys, nice to see you.
Welcome to us all
How's everybody doing?
Doing
as
pretty good.
well.
Well, this is going to be our very first episode of Unpacking Homelessness, and we are really, really excited to dig into the whys. Why did we decide to start this podcast? What about this topic is so compelling for each of us personally, and what are we hoping to get from it? What are we hoping to learn? So, I am Karcy Lawson. Even though my name does say Derek Lemmon, I'm going to have to change that.
It's a good name, strong.
It is. It's a great name.
And I'm Derek Lemmon,
The
number
real
two.
Derek Lemmon, please stand up.
And I'm Samantha Holbrook.
Yep. And for those that don't know, Samantha and I are sisters. And Derek and I have been friends for about 20 years. So, yeah, we are three regular people who really feel compelled to talk about this topic. And we feel really strongly that there can be so much more done in the world to help the homeless community at large. We are all from Washington State, funny enough, and we all live in the Denver area, two areas that are highly impacted by this epidemic. If anyone is interested in sort of how this all came about, I think that's sort of an interesting story. So I was walking the dog a few months ago, and I tend to believe that if you keep having the same idea, I think that the universe is sending you a sign that you need to do something with that. And I'm a photographer and I love telling stories. I think they're so compelling and it's in our DNA. Stories are what moves us, stories are what motivate us, and stories are what bring us together. So I kept thinking, I got to do something with photography and storytelling. And I didn't know if I should approach homeless people and ask them their stories. That to me is really, really interesting is, how did they get where they are? What led them to the place they are today? What decisions, what factors, COVID. I mean, there's so many things. And something about that felt a little unapproachable to me. Something about that felt a little unsafe, if I'm being honest. And I have two little kids, so my safety is even if it's not for me, for them, it's really important. And so I called Derek. He tends to be my sounding board with fun ideas because he's always got great insight. And everyone should have friends like that who you can just, um, you know, just spit out all the random stuff that comes into your brain and know it's going to be safe and supported, right? Sam is also that for me, I want to say. But I called Derek first and gave him this idea. And it was so cool to see his brain light up too. And, he was really interested in the aspect of job placement and of actually making practical um, changes in the world with this, not just telling stories, which is my interest, but also how do we help them? How do we give them the resources and the information so they can lift themselves up? And that's amazing. And so then I called Sam and I said, and she's always had a big heart for homeless people as well and wanted to do something with that. So I knew she'd be an awesome asset to this. And we decided we don't know what we're gonna do, but let's meet at a coffee shop for an hour and let's talk about it. And so we did.
No way we kept it to an hour.
Yeah, it wasn't an hour, it was maybe three. Um, and we started talking about volunteering and we started talking about the different directions we could take this. And I think I'll speak for myself, but for me, it was very exciting, but it also felt a little overwhelming. And it felt a bit like, what could we do that other organizations weren't doing? Three regular people who know basically nothing about the problem, but really want to help, really feel compelled to do something.
Well, and if you think of the business world, then you're supposed to be very aware of your competitors and you're trying to maybe fill in gaps that are there that aren't being filled. And
Mm-hmm.
this one, I think what made this super motivating is we need as much conversation about this as possible. It's such a massive issue, nationwide, of course. So there's not a such thing as too many people working on this. So
Yeah,
yes, a little overwhelming because there's so many
right.
ways to take it, but yeah, it's fun to be able to dig in together with good people like yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I think some of our first ideas, I think I my impression when we were conceptualizing all of this is we were going to go to a park and we were going to walk up to people and we were going to start interviewing people. And that seemed exciting and kind of edgy and fun. And then the more we thought about it, I think, our tactful minds kind of came into play, and we thought, we don't know enough about the issue, and we really don't know enough about who we are approaching to just kind of get in people's face and say, well, why are you homeless? What's your story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the impulse to do, but the more we thought about it, we thought, no, we need to understand the issue a little bit better. And so turns out that when we stopped and thought about it, we all know, or at least know of, people who are working professionally in this arena and helping with this problem. So we decided, yeah, maybe we should start there. Like, let's talk to the people who already, are just so enveloped in the cause. So this podcast is really going to be a dive into individual conversations with those professionals so that we can learn. And who knows where it will take us. I do hope personally that we eventually have people with firsthand experience join in the conversation. But I think we do need to go about that with some tact and grace and compassion and
Respect. Yeah.
yes, and really to respect the situation, and then to be able to offer resources at the end of those conversations if they ask, if it's needed. I really want to break down this wall of like us and them. It's just two different lifestyles, right? It's like it's two different cultures, really. And
Yeah.
to assume you know something about a culture because you've seen it around, it's just a little too presumptuous.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I used to be real big into camping, and I still enjoy it. But I'm done. Give me a night or two, and that's it. I have the luxury of going home and having a hot shower, and that's no longer my day to day. And I can do my best to put myself in the shoes of day in, day out, not having that option and how that would wear on anybody. So yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm very interested in finding organizations that are doing some good out there. I do want to acknowledge one that we found called Showers for All out of Denver, that they're a mobile shower and clothes washing place for the homeless. And we just found out about them, and then they closed down. So shortly thereafter. So I'm very interested in kind of seeing what organizations are out there, what their obstacles are, highlighting them. So if anybody listening is aware of any of those, we want all of the resources. We want to one day hopefully become experts and have these options to feed to people. So yes, please keep that in mind, that part of this is just shedding light on the good organizations out there and the resources that are out there.
Yeah. And we want to understand why some of them fail. Is there a lack of resources, or is there a lack of marketing? Is there a lack of understanding? And all of that.
Funding. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All of that's just going to contribute to understanding the problem. And, I'm so excited for this. This really feels like such a passion project. And, at the end of the day, if we can affect one person or help one person, and
I want to get to three.
three would be amazing. One for each of us. Yeah, yeah, and the tone of the podcast is going to be very conversational. I mean, we do not pretend or assume to be experts in anything except giving a damn. That is the only thing that we really know at this point. And I think, for me personally, there is so much here that is going to challenge me in ways that I have not been challenged so far in my life. Um, I care a lot about what people think. I don't like to be polarizing, and I think that we can probably agree this is a pretty polarizing topic, so that'll be fun. There's just so much here that's going to help. I'll just speak for myself, me personally grow as a person, and to put myself in a situation that I've never put myself in before and see what that feels like and see if that is something that helps the world. And I think it will. So I'm so excited to be doing this with my two very best friends. I think that this is going to be such an amazing journey we're going to go on together. And I'm really excited for listeners to be able to relate to that, to say, I don't know either. So tell me more. I'm curious. And if, we're not asking anybody to do anything differently than they're doing today, except open your eyes a little bit. And the next time you see a homeless person, maybe you'll see them a little differently. You won't make those assumptions that you've been making your whole life. Maybe you'll see that, there are a lot of reasons why people are in the positions that they're in. And maybe it'll make people understand that we're not all that far from possibly being in that position. A lot of people who are homeless today, a year ago, were just like you and me, had houses, had families, had jobs, right? Had dignity. They had all of the things that you and I feel like we are privileged to have today. And I just think it's really important to not paint everybody with a wide brush. We'll start by talking about the fact that Samantha and I, our stepfather Steve, was homeless. He decided that was a choice that he made. Whether or not we understood that is a different story, but it definitely impacted our family and us personally. So, Sam, do you have anything that you'd like to talk about with that? Is there any insights you've taken away from being so personally affected by someone who decided to be homeless?
I will say in retrospect, one thing I've learned that it is important just because you do have an insight and a personal story connected with homelessness, the issue is so much larger. And it can be hard to, it's important to not get stuck in your perspective of what homelessness is. Going from Seattle to Denver was interesting too, because when I first got here, I was saying, wow, you guys, there's really not that much homelessness here.
Mm.
But
Compared to
there
Seattle.
is, a,
Yeah.
yeah, compared to Seattle. And then there is, of course, and the reasons might be different. It seems like immigration is a big cause here, but I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to speaking with our guests and to getting a better understanding of these individual stories and diluting my understanding of it a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like the more exposure, the more you figure out it's a very nuanced issue. I remember I used to we all grew up in a small town that was about 45 minutes north of
Yeah,
Seattle, and
shout out
there wasn't,
Marysville.
yeah. And I remember just wanting to get to Seattle as much as possible. That was where all the fun was. When you'd made it, you lived in Seattle,
Yeah.
right? And so going in with that perspective and encountering homeless people, and I remember because it was so foreign, it just wanted to help everybody. Like, okay, I got some change, sure. And then feeling like, realistically, was I making that big of a difference? No, but it felt like it. It felt like, they're clearly down on their luck. And I'll admit it, year over year, I have gotten a little more jaded on the subject. It's kind of just expected. And I found myself not putting myself in their shoes as often. And that's just shouldn't happen. We're all in this together. It's a community, and we should be figuring out what we can do to help. So I'm very excited just to dig in on these really important topics and just learning. None of us are experts, so we're all going to learn together, and looking forward to it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, and for me, you're right. It is very much about empathy. There's a part of my heart that genuinely bleeds every time I see someone, and we're in Denver and it's freezing right now. And every time I see someone sleeping outside, I can't even fathom what that life might be like. Whether they chose it or not. It brings to mind so many questions of, what's a privilege and what's a right. And I think that's a really interesting, direction to take this is what are we all, um, what do we all deserve as humans? What sort of rights do we deserve just by being alive, right? And yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I'm excited to help people, I think, break through that jadedness that we just very naturally feel. I mean, the world right now is just such a stressful place. No matter what you have, you can, count your blessings all day long. And we all do. We're all very grateful for what we have. But, when it's a dog eat dog world, unfortunately, it's easy to overlook certain types of people. And it's just really unfortunate that that's happening.
When we just look at the way that our social organizations and families have changed over the century, right? It's it does take a village to raise a child, but I don't think we really have village mentality as much as we used to anymore.
Well
So
said.
Totally.
there's a lot of opportunity for people, family members, to slip through the cracks. I mean, it could be as easy as you lose a couple people in your family and then you're alone.
I agree. This modern society is much more individual and not so community based. So
Yeah.
I think that that's going to be very fun to dive into and see some of the reasons behind it.
Yeah, it's very
Absolutely.
dog eat dog, and this whole like pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and why don't they just get a job? And how do you do that when you can't get a shower? How do you do that when you don't have transportation or an ID? I mean, there are so many things that make it so hard for people to reintegrate.
Well, the cost of living in today's society, I understand that there's a big percentage of the population that does live paycheck to paycheck and don't have the luxury of a savings account. They maybe already have mouths to feed and never got the education to get better jobs. There's so many reasons for it, and it's only getting worse on the cost of living front.
In our world, the average person, which is somebody with a family and friends and a job and
Yeah.
a home, whether it's rented or owned, a
Yeah.
home, a shelter, and kind of these basic, we eat every day. We have these basic needs met. And yet, how much we seek peace and serenity and our mental health, and how much we do, oh, we need to meditate, we need to have a creative project, we should probably be learning something. I mean, um like, I just feel like we're constantly being told what we can do to enhance our experience. Imagine starting at a baseline of nothing. You're not, like, getting to
Survival.
a place where you're learning art, or you're reading to expand your mind, or you're taking a class, or you're meditating, or you're doing, drinking enough water. You're doing all these little, like, fine tuning to your life to hopefully defeat or avoid depression, or these things that all of us are subjects to. I can't imagine trying to defeat um those
Yeah.
same kind of, like, mental, those ailments that come to us when you literally have nothing to
We
Yeah.
go
have
off
the
of.
privilege to start at a base and jump off
Right.
from there. And yeah, to
I mean, I feel like I'm going to lose my mind sometimes, and I have all of my needs met.
Absolutely. And dignity, that's another thing that occurs to me is, one of the things that I consider whenever I see a homeless person is giving them eye contact. And that is such a small thing. And it's funny when I think about how many homeless people, I mean, I see people walk past homeless people all the time and literally pretend like they're not there. And
Yep.
we all do that sometimes. I think sometimes it's our own instinct to isolate ourselves from things that are uncomfortable. I am absolutely guilty of that. But it's almost like the bystander effect, right? Which, you guys have probably heard of that, but it's when there's a lot of people around and something happens, people assume other people are going to take action, so they
Yeah.
they sit back. But once you point out the bystander effect, it kicks something in your brain that goes, wait, I'm the bystander. I should be doing something.
Mhm.
And I think that we're definitely, it definitely relates to this situation. It's like, oh, someone else will help them. I don't need to do it. And I know for myself, I keep a bag, a bunch of bags of just random supplies in my car, as often as I can, because when I see a homeless person, I give them this bag. And um, it just occurs to me. I think so much of that is for my own sake. So much of that is for myself so that I can feel like I'm doing something and relieve myself of some of that guilt. Does it help them to a point? Yeah, I think it definitely can. But I want to know more about that. I want to know more about how regular average people with finite resources and finite time can really make the most impact with what they have to give. Because I don't know if me doing that is actually helping them or not. I don't know if it's undermining what other organizations are working to do, you know? And what one of the really interesting things is by us having so many contacts in Washington State has passed so many laws regarding homelessness. I mean, it's no secret that it is, I think, one of the worst homeless epidemics in the country is in Seattle.
Definitely.
And it's incredible. I mean, it is an unrecognizable city from when we lived there. And they have done so much work to pass laws in Washington State to help the homeless. And I'm so curious to hear how that's going, right? If Denver might be one of the cities that want to take on some of that, what might that look like? And can we learn something from what Washington has done? You know, can we use some of that as maybe a cautionary tale to help point us in the right direction? I don't know, but I'm curious to find out.
Yeah, that is one direction that we've certainly hoped to gain experience to as we meet more contacts, we can share their experience. And it's we're of course focused on the greater Denver market. That's where we live. And with the size of an issue that this is, then we know we want to start a little less broad. But our hope is to, as we keep learning, make connections with people and actually make a dent in some of these issues.
Well, I think this has been a really enlightening conversation. I hope you've got a good feel for what we're going at here, what we're trying to gain, what we're trying to learn. If you're listening to this and you care and you're not sure where to start, we really hope you listen to our podcast. We're going to be very interactive. We've got a Facebook group, we've got a Facebook page, we've got an Instagram. We're excited to do all the things, and we're not great at any of it yet, but we're getting better and we're really excited. So if you're interested, please follow along. We'll be so curious to hear how you like it and what your opinions are. And if you take anything away, that's our ultimate goal. So go ahead and hit the like button if there is one. I don't know yet what platform this is going to be
Click
on.
that button that says
There
favorite
we go.
podcast of all time.
Yeah, but share, right? Share this with your friends and family. And if you or someone you know has a compelling story about homelessness, I am always amazed whenever I share this project with somebody, and I think you guys agree, Derek and Sam. Anytime I talk to anybody about this, it is incredible to hear how many people have a through line with homelessness. It is incredible how this has affected so many people. And, I had said, it's amazing. There are so many topics in this world. I'm going to throw out crypto because that's my personal one. Where like I don't relate to crypto. I don't care about it. I can tune it out. It's not something that's part of my life. My husband is into it. That's great. It's not my thing. But homelessness is really one of those topics that, unless you live in some rich mansion on the top of the hill and you don't leave your house, there's a good chance you're going to come in contact with a homeless person at some point. And it can't do any harm to just know a little bit more about what these people might be going through.
Yeah, we've got some great guests coming on. We've got social workers, community volunteers, someone who's worked with the prison systems, an author, wide range of guests that we're really excited to share with you.
If you're interested in that, if that's something that sounds compelling to you, we're so excited that you're here. So please listen along, follow, and get in contact with us if you have anything you'd like to contribute. We're always looking to be better.
We'll be releasing our podcast on Spotify and iTunes. We'll have the video form on YouTube. And please do find us at Unpacking Homelessness on Instagram, where you can find updates for when our first episode is coming up. We hope to launch that in springtime.
All right. Until next time. See you guys later.